Good afternoon and happy Friday. My name is Tepo Kapane. Some know me as DJ at large. Happy Friday. It's been a long week. Despite that, you've taken the time to log in. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I am your host today. I'm super excited. I'm in the mood to be with you guys. And over the next couple of weeks, Asisa Foundation will be helping you to build a relationship with your money through the L+EARN Consumer Financial Education Program. Our hashtag across social media and in the chat box is hashtag secure the bag. Iskwama, we're securing Iskwama. Today is our very first webinar and it's all about the B word, budgeting. I know, the moment you mention the word, people get bored, they tend to roll their eyes, they get heart palpitations, headaches. It's because a lot of people, they don't think that a budget actually works. But over the next hour, we will show you its true value in helping you to better manage your money. In the meantime, drop me a message in the chat box at the bottom. Let me know where you're currently watching from. Let me know where you are and use the hashtag secure the bag. So I'm all the way in Johannesburg, in Parktown, got a beautiful view, but I'm keen to know where are you currently watching from and use the hashtag secure the bag. Let me read a couple of your comments. Let me see where people are. I see Tabi, so here sent me a message and says I'm all the way at Wits, enjoying and loving it. I see people are also using the hashtag, which is nice. Use that hashtag, let me know where are you currently watching from. Engage, be with me. I see the numbers are ticking and they're going up. That's what I absolutely love, right? So a little bit about Asisa Foundation, right? So Asisa Foundation was founded in 2013. They are a non-profit organization and they were founded by the Association of Savings and Investment South Africa. They are very passionate about consumer financial education, and they run multiple education initiatives on behalf of the savings and investment industry. Essentially, they create these types of spaces so that we can learn more about money in a fun and relatable way. I see more comments are coming in. I see people are also already asking questions, all types of questions. Zuko says, I'm all the way in Cape Town, loving and enjoying it. Tumelo says, hashtag secure the bag. I'm out in Hatfield. Love it. Lucindiso says, I'm out in Pretoria. Hashtag secure the bag. Loving it, loving it, loving it. So what can you expect during this webinar, right? So our webinars, they'll be interactive, inspirational, informative with expert tips, and there will be rewards and prizes, right? So we want to give you some goodies. And of course, please visit the L+EARN website, which is www.l+earn.org.za for you to access some great financial resources, such as the recording of this webinar, which will be available next week, Wednesday. If you have any issues, any concerns, please send an email to sarah@groundedmedia.co.za. We'll share all that information in the chat. So don't stress, don't worry, don't panic. We've got you covered. So in terms of our webinars, please put these dates in your diary and set a Friday reminder. Me and you, for the next couple of weeks, have a date every Friday at 2:30. We have 6 interactive webinars covering a range of topics from saving to investing to entrepreneurship to managing credit and work readiness. And over these 6 webinars, we'll be helping you to build a relationship with your money, starting with budgeting. All right. And of course, we also have some amazing guests that will be joining us later on. Let me actually give them a quick virtual high five. So I'm going to ask them to switch on their cameras. So we'll be hosting Zwanda, Rasiwela, and Mulalo Namataheli. Let me see the ladies. Hey, ladies. All right. So 3, 2, 1, virtual high five, ladies. Love it. So the ladies will be joining us a little bit later on, sharing some of their insights around budgeting, right? So before we get started and we start talking about budgeting, I have a random money question for our audience, right? Got a question for you guys. What song best describes your current relationship status with your money? What song, right, best describes your current relationship status with your money? Get into the chat box. It's right at the bottom. Let me know what song best describes your relationship status with your money. For me, right? It's sexual healing. Hey, I'm not even gay. Me and my money. Way, so I've got a really good relationship with my money, and I'm hoping that at the end of the next coming weeks, you will also have a loving and beautiful relationship with yours. But I want to hear from you. Share it in the chat box. What song best describes your current relationship status? And of course, use that hashtag secure the bag. Let me read some of your comments. All right, cool stuff. Tabiso says, heal and kizio, right? Which is translated to heal my heart. So it looks like that relationship is not going well, but we're not here to judge people. Somebody else, Tabiso, no, this is Mzwandile, says, can't get away. So it looks like there's not a lot of people that have a good relationship with their money. Where are the people that are in a loving relationship with their money? Those are the people that I'm looking for. So let me go through some of more of these. Let's see. Somebody says, we're making love with my money. Okay, cool. So some interesting songs here and there. Keep sending me some of those songs. What song best describes your current relationship status with your money? That's what I would like to know from you guys. And of course, you can keep interacting with me and the rest of the Asisa Foundation team in the chat box. So let's keep moving in terms of the webinar, and let's start talking about budgeting, right? So this is a very interesting quote by Dave Ramsey, and it says, a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. So if you have a stipend of 1,000 Rand and after 2 days it's gone, that's the reason. I own a budget. So a budget is like a financial compass that gives you and your money some direction. That's what a financial compass is all about. And that's what a budget is, right? So I wanted to talk a bit about needs and wants. So earlier on, I spoke about building a relationship with your money. And I think creating a realistic and visual budget is the actual first step, right? So it will give your relationship with money some direction, right? So why is this important? Why does this matter? Right? Because a budget will help you to do a number of things. The first is it will help you to prioritize your spending. Right? So this is where the needs and wants come in, and you need to be able to distinguish between the two. The second thing that a budget will help you to do, it'll help you to better spread your money over the month. So we have limited resources. You've got your stipend, your allowance, it comes in, it's small. So this will help you to better spread it over the month. The third thing that a budget will help you do is to identify places where you can start to cut down on your expenses and to build up some of your savings, right? So the ultimate goal of a good budget is to get you into the habit of spending less than you earn. But let's go a little bit deeper, right? There are three main parts to a budget. It's your income, which could be your salary, your wages, your side hustle income, your stipend. We then have our fixed expenses, right? And these types of fixed expenses can be different things. So it could be your cell phone contract, your rent, your gaming subscription if you have one. And then last but not least, that we have in terms of our list when we're talking about these expenses are your variable expenses, right? So your variable expenses are expenses like food, clothing, electricity, data, entertainment. So you've got your income, you've got your fixed expenses, you've got your variable expenses. So what's the difference between fixed expenses and variable expenses? Fixed expenses are the expenses that don't change on a month-to-month basis. So when we talk about rent, you'll be paying the same rent for a 12-month period. It does not change. So those are your fixed expenses. Your variable expenses are the ones that change from month to month. So, you know, the amount you spend on electricity, it may change from month to month. Same thing with data or entertainment, right? So three components of the budget is your income, your fixed expenses, and your variable expenses. Your expenses, though, are really important, right, in your budget because those reflect your needs and your wants, right? And that'll be different for everybody, right? So when we're talking about food, clothing, a cell phone, makeup, data, you need to be able to distinguish between your needs and your wants when you're actually creating your budget. But you must prioritize your needs before you actually prioritize your wants, right? So that's where you need to start. So I think let's do a couple of examples, right? Because sometimes you understand things a little bit better once there are examples that are there, right? So when you look at the screen, there's a number of images there. We've got a house, we've got some food, we've got some makeup, we've got a car, we've got an iPhone, we've got some school fees, right? So our needs and wants differ since our circumstances differ, right? But even over time, you may find that some of your needs also change, right? So all of a sudden your needs become wants, your wants become needs. It can happen. And I'll give you a really good example. So before COVID-19, a lot of us had access to Wi-Fi on campus or at work. It was freely available, right? Then all of a sudden lockdown happened. We needed to go home. And most people now needed to spend more and more on data. Data became essential. It almost became a need. Because if you wanted to go to work and get onto webinars and have chats, or you wanted to attend lectures, you now needed to have data. So as I said, over time, you may find that your needs and your wants change, right? So when you budget, you need to prioritize your needs, right? And when you need to adjust and cut down things on your budget, we will always be guided by our needs and wants. So going back to some of these examples, at the top left, we've got a house, right? And shelter is a basic need. And in your budget, that will be reflected as a fixed expense. So it could be your rent, it could be the amount that you're paying at res. If you've purchased a property and you're lucky enough, it will then be the bond that you pay every month. It's a fixed expense, it's a need, right? And it's fixed because that amount doesn't change on a month-to-month basis. Then next to that, we've got food, right? And food is a need. Right? But food in this example is not a fixed expense. It's a variable expense because the amount you spend on food changes from month to month, right? So that's how you distinguish between a need and a want and whether it's a fixed expense or is it a variable expense, right? Makeup as an example. To some, it might be a need. To some, it may be a want. I see it as a want, but it would be definitely a variable expense because the guys and girls that use makeup, they won't be buying the same makeup every month. So the amount they spend will change. But the question is it a need or is it a want? That's the type of balancing act that you need to do. But as I said, when you do budget, you need to prioritize your needs, and your needs and wants will differ since our circumstances also differ. So here's another example, right? Exercising to keep fit, right? You need to exercise, you need to be fit, you need to do all of that. But how do you do it while staying on a budget? So there's gym membership, there's gym outfits, do you exercise at home? These are the balancing acts that you need to do when you start budgeting. You start thinking about what's a need, what's a want, is it a fixed expense? Is it a variable expense? Is it something that needs to be in my budget? Or is it something that I can cut out, right? That's what you need to start to do. So that's in terms of your examples. Now, one of the things that can sometimes complicate a budget and your needs and wants is family and your home situation. So perhaps there's a funeral at home and you need to contribute, or you now need to start paying for a family member's school fees. Those things can, completely destabilize you financially, right? So how do you help and contribute without ruining your budget or compromising yourself financially, right? And hopefully Mulalo, our financial planner, will guide us a little bit on this. I remember earlier this year, I was talking to somebody that was getting a stipend from their bursary, and the stipend was to buy textbooks, it was for food, it was for transport, and they were sending half of the stipend back home. But if you're sending it back home, then how are you getting to campus? What are you eating? What textbooks are you buying? So sometimes it can become a little bit complicated when family is there. But as I said, I'm hoping that Mulalo will be able to guide us on how do we find the balance and how do we have those difficult conversations with some of our family, right? So let's keep moving in terms of budgeting. So how do you go about actually creating the budget? You guys now see, a budget is important, but how do I go about creating an actual budget? I think the first step is that you need to set a goal. Why are you budgeting? Do you want to reduce your monthly expenses? Do you have some debt that you want to pay off? Are you saving towards something? Do you want to start investing? Do you want to make sure that your money stretches throughout the month? You need to set a goal before you start budgeting. Once that's done, you have to budget before you receive your income. It doesn't make sense to get your income, you go to Konga, and then you're like, oh, DJ Clark spoke about budgeting, now I need to budget. No, 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 no. You need to budget before you receive your income. You need to plan for the money before it comes into your bank account, right? One of the reasons why I think people fail at budgeting is that they create the budget, but then they don't follow it. They don't review it on a month-to-month basis. So, a budget requires some commitment and some consistency from you, right? Also, you need to be realistic and honest when you're creating this budget. If you spend 1,000 Rand on going out, right? And now when you create your budget, you say, okay, I normally spend 1,000, I'm now gonna spend 50 Rand. It's not realistic, right? So you'd rather say, I'm spending 1,000, maybe let me try and spend 800 and then save the 200. And then after a month or two, okay, cool, I'm coping with the 800, let me bring it down to 500. So you need to be realistic and honest when you're creating your budget, right? You don't create this budget to suffer, but you create it to help you to secure your financial future by planning and making small but consistent sacrifices and exhibiting delayed gratification. So that 200 Rand that you save, that 500 Rand that you save, it makes a very big difference. And in next week's webinar, when we talk about saving and investing, you will hear compound interest. That's where that extra 50 Rand will be going to. In terms of budgeting, another pro tip is start by going through your 3-month bank statement, right? So download your 3-month bank statement, get out some highlighters, and start identifying where's your money going. So highlight your income, highlight all your expenses. Of your expenses, see which one is a fixed expense, which one is a variable expense. And then of these expenses, which one is a need, which one is a want? Be honest, right? And that's the first place to start putting your budget together and to start finding places to start saving money. So if it is possible while you're creating this budget, definitely include savings. It's very important. Savings for emergencies, or perhaps there's a specific goal that you want to save towards. So in terms of creating the budget, those are some of the things that you need to have at the back of your mind that are really, really important. So now in terms of budgeting tools, now you're like, we recognize what needs to be in a budget, why it's so important. Now I am ready to create one, right? So in terms of budgeting tools, there are various ways that you can create a budget. It does not have to be complicated. You do not need a PhD, right? If you're like me and you're old school, you might want to write it down, right? Or have it on an Excel spreadsheet. If you're tech savvy, you know everything about apps, you could use an app. You can use a digital tool. You can even go onto the L+EARN website, which is www.l+earn.org.za, and get a budgeting template and start there. And the budgeting template, it'll have the income, it'll have the fixed expenses, the variable expenses, and all you need to do is start putting it in, filling it in, and then following through with it. What is important to remember, right, is that a budgeting is not a once-off exercise, but rather it's a process that needs to be done by every person every month, right? So there is creating the budget, following the budget, and then reviewing the budget. You need to do all of them. Otherwise, the entire budget does not work at all. Let's get into our youth interview. Earlier on, we were doing high fives, we were dancing, we were having fun. And of course, one of the individuals that I'm super excited to be chatting to on this webinar is Zwanda Rasiwela from Vuwani, Limpopo. She's a BSc in mining engineering. Hey, she's very smart. She's a Vitsi. I also happen to go to Wits as well. She's been employed for 4 years and is currently working as an aftermarket solution consultant. You had that English. And of course, she's also very, very passionate about financial literacy, right? So she shares her personal savings and investment journey on a YouTube channel. Go and subscribe. It's called Zwanda Nana, which focuses on money management and aims to inspire financial independence in young adults. I feel like, Zwanda, we are now homies, we're now friends. I'm gonna start calling you Z. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar.
Oh, thank you so much, Sebo. I'm so happy to be here. It's exciting to speak to young people about any topic that has to do with personal finance, because as young people, we are at a level where we can change our lives. So very, very excited.
So, Z, as a young graduate, what helped you to get the budgeting aspect right?
That's really a good question. Very early in my career, I actually realized that the drawing up of a budget is actually much easier. I was actually so excited to write out my budget. So I wrote out my budget. However, the difficult part was the implementation part of it. So I decided, okay, I will have to look into techniques that can help me with implementation. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So the first technique that I look into, and I believe Tsepo spoke about it earlier, it's being realistic. And this is very, very true, guys. You have to look into your banking statement, look into the reality of your spending behavior and start there. That means your budget would reflect the reality of your current situation. And that's what I did. So I used to go to restaurants. However, I found myself dipping into my savings to cover for that expenses. And that's not something that I like doing. So therefore, I had to incorporate entertainment into my budget just to make sure that it fits. I don't have to dip into my savings. I'm saving what I can actually afford. So that's what I did. My budget reflects my income and my lifestyle. Second point that I did was to automate my savings. So I made sure that right when my income comes in, I am able to get it debited to a savings account. Then I didn't have to decide on a monthly basis how much I needed to save because it was getting debited through the bank and I got paid. So then any expenses can go after that one. So the question that I normally get around that is, Zonda, once you get it debited into the other account, why don't you withdraw it? Because it's so tempting to have money out there and you're not withdrawing it. So what I do is that I make sure that the money that I save is aligned to a particular goal, right? So for me, that was buying a house. I knew that at some point in my life, I would want to buy a house. So the money that I was saving, I knew that it will have to cover for the lawyers that are needed when I buy my house. Also, it will also be needed for furniture in the house and for other expenses that comes with owning a house. So when I think about having a house, I knew that I will not withdraw that because that meant that I'm delaying myself from my goal of buying a house. So that's what kept me grounded. So yeah, so that's how I got my budgeting right.
Z, you've mentioned some very important things. The first is being realistic when you create the budget, right? The second is automating it. And the third and the really important thing is you had a goal, right? So you'd attach this budget of yours to a goal. I love your videos. As you can tell, building a relationship with money, right? And in your videos on budgeting, right, you raise some interesting questions, right, which some of our participants might have in their mind. Some people might be watching and thinking, a budget is too basic. It's such a boring topic. It's something for beginners or only people that have debt should be worried about a budget. I mean, what are your thoughts on this topic of budgeting?
Yes, so I know that some people may think budgeting is so boring, budgeting is too basic. I have the template, but I think what they seem to miss or fail to understand is that budgeting is actually the foundation of personal finance and financial freedom. If you get budgeting right, you're most likely to gain the discipline that is needed for anyone to handle money management of any case. People normally say, I'm interested in how to get a new business. Right? So that's what I would say, that budgeting is important. Budgeting is for everyone. It doesn't matter whether you're in debt or not, because it helps you to handle your money. For an example, if you're planning to invest, you will have to decide in your budgeting what percentage of your income you want to invest. Right? So there's no way of escaping budgeting. If you have a business, you need to decide within your business how much money out of your profit you're going to reinvest in the business, or how much of your money you're going to pay the expenses. So if you get that right, you're most likely to move smoothly forward in your money management or any money related topics.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned such important things that I think make so much sense. I want us to talk a bit about, in terms of your budget the tracking aspect can be a little bit difficult, right?
Yes.
How have you done that tracking of it? Is it something that you discipline yourself with every month? I'm going to go back and track it. I mean, how do you handle that part of it?
So for me, I do my budgeting on a monthly basis because I align my budget with my income. My income comes on a monthly basis, so I do my budgeting monthly. And however, I feel like if you have a fortnight income that comes after every 14 days, then you need to do it as per your income. So for me, I do it monthly because my income comes monthly. So I'm able to, I use pen and paper as well. I write it down and I check even the previous month to see what are some of those unexpected spending that I might be developing. And like you said before, it's a continuous exercise. You need to do it over and over again because every month is different. This month you have sugar that you bought from last month, but the next month is finished. So you need to make sure that you do it on a month-to-month basis, and it will really help you with the discipline. So that's how I actually track it.
No, I mean, I absolutely love that. So earlier on, we spoke a bit about family, right?
Yes.
So, as a young graduate, even as a student, was black tax a factor that you needed to consider? And then how did you manage that?
Yes, this is a very important topic, particularly to most of us who are Black people. And it's called black tax because it's mostly affecting Black people, right? So it's the reality of our life. I think we need to start there to understand that because we are historically disadvantaged, this is our reality. We cannot necessarily run away from it, but we can manage it. Right. You would find that maybe you are the first one to graduate in your family and your younger sisters, your parents are looking up to you to change the situation. We can debate on whether they should or not, but it's the reality of our situation. The way I have personally managed it is I have set up expectation from home. I told my mom to say, if you want money, then you will have to tell me a month prior so that I can include it on my budget, right? So this helps me not to just take random money or my savings and service her needs, but to make sure that when she asks money, she knows that I will not be able to give her right away. I will only give her on the next month. And I am realistic in telling her that this month I cannot afford. I have already committed to other things so that I don't strain myself for the sake of satisfying her needs. Another point that I find very important, if you give money to family on a monthly basis, you also need to tell them how much you can afford. So draw up your budget, understand what you are capable of doing, and let them know that, this is what I can do and this is what I cannot do, because drawing up those boundaries will allow your family to understand your budget as well. So then you are able to manage their expectation over what you are capable of doing.
I think it's about having that honest and real conversation to say,
yes,
this is how far I can stretch, this is how far I can go. I'm willing to assist, but only so far. So yeah, I think it's a difficult one, but it's one that needs to be.
It is.
Something else that I was thinking about is obviously you are, a savings and investing enthusiast, right?
Yes.
And currently, when you're looking at the economy, it's not doing well. Food is expensive. I'm a food just oil, cooking oil, so expensive. Petrol is going up, which means transport is going up. And I want to know, is it still possible to save within your budget when things are this bad? And maybe you can share tips of what you're doing to try and find ways to save within your budget.
Yes. So I think if we are being real, there are people who, when they look into their income, really, there's not much they can stretch themselves within the budget. I can only pay for basic food, which is maize meal and maybe a braai pack, and then I can pay for my transport and my income is finished. They are people who are living within that reality. So for me, I also feel like, there's a lot of South Africans who are in that category. If you are someone who within your budget, you are really, really tight, so you cannot squeeze anything out, look into opportunities to expand your income, because sometimes it's not a matter of squeezing everything within your budget. You can look into opportunities to expand your income. For an example, personally, I used to sell Avon when I was in university. I sold Avon, I sold Herbalife, I did what I could to make sure that within my tight budget, I'm able to get 300 Rand to go and do my hair. extra money. However, if you have allowable income that has disposable income, right? Of course, because now the fuel price is high, now the living expenses is high, your buying power has reduced, right? You are not able to buy as much as you used to, right? What I personally have done, and I've done this recently, is to look into what are my nice to have expenses, right? So like I said, I'm someone who likes restaurants. So some of the restaurant budget that I had is crossed out now. I'm going to be buying nice food that I can cook at home so that I don't have to go as frequent to restaurants anymore. So those are the changes that you can trick within your budget, right? However, if you feel like you are a very lifestyle type of person and you want to keep your lifestyle, you need to increase your earning capacity.
So finding that balance, which I think is really, really important. Lastly, Z, do you have any tips that you can share with some of the young people to make budgeting a habit and a norm in terms of their lifestyle?
Yes, so make budgeting a priority from the get-go. If you're able to budget 10,000 Rand, right, when you start working, you won't struggle with 50,000 Rand. I'm sure we all wonder, like, how did that person finish 2 million, 8 months? It's always happening. And you wonder, like, how did people misuse that money? Money, it's a relationship thing. Like you asked us, what's your relationship with money? It's a relationship thing. And I think that's what I like about it. It's because it's loyal. It will give you what you give it. So if you start teaching yourself the habit or the discipline that is needed for you to handle money correctly, and which is from the get-go should be budgeting, right? If you get that right, you will be able to handle most of the things. You'll be able to know that I'm not supposed to increase my lifestyle now. I can just increase my saving capabilities so that in the future, I'm able to buy a car of my needs or the house of my needs. You'll be able to get the discipline that is needed for you to handle any amount of money.
Oh man, I think you've given us such great insights. And as you were speaking, I saw a comment from Lerato saying, cravings is what's my downfall. So if you like food, then you need to either you need to find a place for it in your budget somewhere. So
yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights in terms
Thank
of
budgeting.
You. Absolutely love everything that you've said, which is so relatable and so fun. Give us another high five there. Yeah, absolutely love it. And of course, we're going to also bring in Mulalo into the chat. She is a certified financial planner, and she's very passionate about financial education. And apparently she knows everything about money. Mulalo, thank you so much for your time and for joining us on this webinar.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. I look forward to engaging this afternoon.
As you can see, there's lots happening in the chat box. There's so many questions, which of course, after this, we will tackle some of them. And I think a great place to start, Mulalo, is, in budgeting, why is the aspect of spending less than you earn so important, right? And how can one use a budget to effectively reach to that goal?
When you spend less than you earn, you are able to be left with money after you've done your budget. And it is through money that we're able to reach our financial goals. So ensuring that you spend less than you earn will assist you to be able to reach those particular goals. Thank you.
Lovely. I think what you're saying is so important. It's something that I mentioned earlier on. The goal that you want to try and reach is that you're spending less than you earn. And then you can start to save some of that for emergencies or invest or pay off debt, which I think is such an important thing. Another thing that I also mentioned right at the beginning is that your budget has to be realistic, but it also has to be visual, right? So it has to be written down. It has to be on Excel or an app. Why is it so important that a budget is visual? It's something that you can see.
When you write something down, you commit to it. And even that act of noting your income and your expenses makes you to strengthen that relationship that we're talking about, the relationship that you have with money. Because as people sometimes will say, we've got it all figured out, we've got the budget in our heads, but when you start writing it down, you see that there's a lot of things that we forget when we are saying that we've got it in our head. And then when you see it, then you are able to commit to it, and then you're able to make the necessary adjustments, because some of the things you might put an amount, but when you look at the reality of it, it's not the exact amount, or when there's changes or fluctuations that need to be accounted for, then you are able to do that exercise, simple, quick, pen and paper, instead of just doing the numbers in your head.
Makes sense. So it has to be visual. And I think it also gives you a little bit of motivation when you start seeing that you're actually sticking to it, you're able to save, it's working out. It might be slow, but it's starting to work out. And I think you keep yourself accountable if you can see it all the time, which I think is also quite important. I want to go back to this issue of tracking your budget, right? Why is it important to track how you spend throughout the month and not just at the beginning of the month? Why is this so important?
It helps you to stay on top of your money game, because when we talk about finances, it's important that we always know where we stand when it comes to the money that we have and the money that we are going to plan for. And budgeting is something that you do for the future, but reviewing the budget, that's where you look at what happened in the past, and then you compare the budget.
Mulala, are you still there? Seem to have lost her there. Mulala, can you still hear us?
And also the actual. So if day-to-day basis, then it becomes.
Hi, Mulala, can you hear us? We seem to have lost you just a little bit there.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, please just answer again for us. We sort of just lost you a little bit.
I was saying that it's important that we track our spending, because we are able to be on top of our money game. And as we track, we are able to see what happened with the budgeted and what's also happened with the actual. And then if there's anything that we'll need to make adjustment on, then we can quickly do that, and also continue in keeping ourselves motivated when it comes to managing our finances.
That's so interesting. You know, I'm having a look at the chat, and what I'm really loving is that some of the audience are giving each other advice, right? So N-Dash says, hashtag secure the bag. Food is so expensive. I'm left with nothing after that. Then Lerato says, you know, I try and find specials when doing groceries. It does help. So I really love the fact that, you know, even in the chat, people are motivating each other, which is a great thing. Another thing that keeps coming up, Mulalo, in the chat is temptation, right? I saw somebody saying, hey, Shein, hey, that online store is killing my budget. So I want to chat a bit about temptations, right? And instant gratification, right? We live in this digital world where everything is accessible, online shopping, banking, all of those things. How can one minimize the temptations to spend and to stick to their budget? I mean, what advice do you have? Because, you know, somebody's crying, Michelle's crying here about Shein. What do we say to Michelle?
I can say the answer to temptation is discipline. And the only way that we're going to get to that discipline if we put that goal on top of mind. And if you've got that goal, even if you are saying you are saving or investing, that goal is going to pull you towards achieving that goal. And as you remain disciplined, you can use different types of budget, because budgeting is not just saying, let's write our income and our expenses and see what's left after. There's different forms that we can look at. Other people will say 50, 30, 20. Other people will say the envelope system. Other people will say a zero-based budget. And as you choose one that suits your need, you are able to then commit to it, and then also ensure that you use the money for what has been allocated for. For example, on a zero-based budget, you're looking at your income, you're looking at your expenses, and then you say, my expenses come up to X amount. For example, if your expenses come to 7,000 and your income is 10,000, there's 3,000 that you can easily allocate to your savings goal or your investment goals or your debt repayment goals, and then you are left with 7,000 that you are managing. So if there's a temptation or there's a sale in that store, you won't be tempted to go and buy shoes, because in your mind, you know that I'm left with zero. Whatever that is left has already been allocated to a financial goal. And whatever that I'm left with now is only going to ensure that I end up at zero. I saw someone posting, Is it necessary that when we budget, then everything needs to be spent and we're left with zero? So that would be the type of budget that one would choose to use. And on an envelope one, that's where you're allocating to say X amount, this is for entertainment, this is for food, this is for transport. And once the money is finished on one envelope, you don't go and dip to the other envelope, because if the entertainment one is done, then you can't be using money for rent, you can't be using money for transport. So that will assist you with the discipline. So it's important to see, where am I, what do I want to achieve, and which tool or which system or which type of budget can I use in order to be able to reach my goals. And lastly, one thing that people can do is use the resources that are available and the tools that we have with our banking systems. There's the option of hiding your accounts, because some people, every time they log into the app, when they see the money, they want to go and spend. So you can decide which account you want visible on your banking app, so that you can only be able to see that one and then use the money that is allocated at that period. And if you need more money, then you'll have to make the other accounts visible, make the transfer, and then hide it again. That will assist with ensuring that you remain disciplined. Thank you.
Yeah, you said such important things. And as you were speaking, I saw a comment coming up by Nawal who says, I feel as if everyone's budget gets messed up once we see the word sale. So that's where the discipline aspect of it comes about. Mulalo, we did mention that budgeting is personal and it's specific to people's circumstances. So, our needs and wants won't be the same. Even the reason why we're budgeting won't be the same. So you could be budgeting because you want to save for a specific thing, or you want to save for an emergency. So you're like, you know what, I need to start saving up for an emergency. And because a budget is personal, it's different from person to person, does it ever become necessary to involve a financial planner like yourself or some sort of a money coach to assist in creating a budget? Because maybe maybe I need to get help. Is there any value in that?
Yes, there is definitely value in getting someone to walk the journey with you. So this person is not coming to decide for you, but it's coming to help you and help you become accountable on the money choices that you're going to be making on a day-to-day basis. And it is personal because everyone has their own financial goals and objectives. And it is important that you've got someone that you communicate those goals with, someone who will keep you accountable, someone who will remind you when you want to go and spend the money that you would have allocated to other things that are more important in your life. So it's more of walking the financial journey with someone. And coming back onto the one where they say the budget gets messed up once we hear the word sale. Sale simply means that we're selling. It doesn't mean that we've reduced the price. That's why other people will decide to even put a higher price and then reduce it to the normal price, so that when we see that red sticker, when we see the word sale, we go and spend the money. And money has direction. So if we say it was 100 Rand, now you're paying 70 Rand, it does not mean that you've saved 30 Rand. It just means that you've spent 70 Rand. So the direction that your money is going, it's outward. There's no 30 Rand that's coming back in. So if we understand money in terms of relationship and direction, we are able to make proper money decisions, even when the word sale, it's all over our faces.
That's such an interesting way to see it, and you're 100% right. Money is still going out, nothing is coming in. Lastly, Mulalo, budgeting and balancing the assistance that you give to your family can be tricky. I've seen more messages around that saying it's a little bit difficult to budget because there's people that are depending on you. How can young people manage this aspect of their money and budgeting better in terms of family and expectations from them?
Thank you very much for this question. And I know that we like to term it black text. And I love how we frame it to say that assistance to family, because in all reality, what we're doing is assisting our loved ones and ensuring that they've got an upper hand in life as well. So what we can do is first to include it in our budget, because we know the commitments that we have when it comes to family members. So we can include that in the budget, and then you know that for my family, there's this specific amount that I can allocate so that it doesn't mess up the rest of my budget. And secondly, is to ensure that where your money goes, there's also a money conversation. Because if you just give someone money and then you don't discuss with them, you don't plant the seed, you don't pay it forward and have that engagement so that they can see what you're sacrificing in order for them to have, then it becomes a wasted act of kindness, because now they're going to be expecting in future. But if you have the discussion, you know that you're not just doing this for this current generation, there's also the next generation, and someone knows that someone had to sacrifice in order for them to have something in life, which allows them and makes it easier for them to sacrifice for those in future. So I would say, let's normalize having money conversations, and wherever our money goes, let the conversation follow. Thank you.
Love what you've said. I want us to move into some burning budgeting questions. The people that are attending have said so much in the chat. So if you have a question that is burning around budgeting, around money, you want it answered, please go to the chat at the bottom. There's even a Q&A as well there. We'd love to take in some of your questions in terms of budgeting. And of course, I'm going to bring back Z and Mulalo to assist in terms of answering some of these questions, and maybe even commenting on some of the things that people are saying in the chat box. So if you've got a question, hashtag secure the bag is the hashtag that you need to do. I'm going to be going through some of your questions, and of course, trying to give you some assistance in terms of figuring out this budgeting thing. So one of the questions that's come up that I think is really, really interesting, as I have a look here on my screen, is around this, right? This person says, I don't see the need to budget because I earn a very small income. Should income matter when creating a budget? Let me bring Z and Mulalo back into this one. Such an interesting question that's come up. I've just lost who it was, but the question is, it starts with the comment saying, I don't see the need to budget because I earn very small income. Should income matter when creating a budget? Z, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts? Should income matter when you're creating a budget?
Yes, income matters. Income always matters, because that's where it starts, right? It actually determines what you're capable of doing. I think if we had unlimited income, which everyone would wish for, we would do so much. We would do everything that we wish for. But income is your cap. It's what limits what you're able to do. And if you have minimal income, I think budgeting is still important, because within that small amount that you get, you still have to decide what is the priority, because budgeting is a tool that helps you to identify where your money should go, right? Because you can decide that, okay, I'm craving for KFC, and within that minimal income, you go and buy KFC, and then later realize that, oh, I don't have transport money to go to my work, which is paying me the small income. So yes, income does matter. I think that's what actually determines what we are capable of doing outside of our desires.
I'm curious to hear from you, Mulalo, because as a financial planner, you deal with people on a daily basis, and somebody might be coming to you and saying, I really don't think I should be budgeting because I've got such a small amount of money. Mulalo, how do you tackle those types of comments and questions that you might get from potential young clients?
Thank you very much for the question. So income is the starting point. It is the main thing that we look at when we are budgeting, because if we say budgeting is your plan for the money and also telling your money where to go, there needs to be money first. So it is important that we look at that amount and then also find ways to grow that amount if we're saying that it is a limited amount. And also, as Vanda mentioned, we need to prioritize and see what is important. And as we do that, we are planning for our money and we are budgeting. I think the challenge with most people is the term budgeting itself, because it's such a scary word to some people, because if you say who does budget here, people won't raise their hand. But if you say who plans for their money, most people will raise their hands. So that's why I say let's normalize having these conversations, and then have people make peace with these terms that are used in finances, so that they know that they can actually budget. And even if they've got a smaller amount, that small amount needs to be allocated, and that process eventually is budgeting. So income is important.
That makes so much sense. Very quickly, because of course we're running out of time. Another comment that keeps coming up in terms of the chat box is around where is the ideal place to start cutting down on my expenses in my budget. Z, very quickly, where in the budget is the right place to start cutting down?
Yes, so I think as presented on the webinar, you need to categorize your needs and your wants, right? That will help you to know what the priorities are. Of course, you can't go and cut off maize meal and rice because that's your main food, right? So you need to, for me, I have what I call nice to have. It's things that when I have them or I don't have them, it doesn't necessarily affect my life. Right? So that's where I actually start. I start there. I start with things which I know that they're just nice to have. It's like going to a restaurant. I have groceries that's enough to allow me to the rest of the month. So going to a restaurant is a nice to have. Going out with friends, it's a nice to have, right? A big phone, iPhone 13, it's a nice to have. So those are the type of things which personally, for me, I start there. I start with things which I know that they won't change my way of living.
Yeah, and very quickly, Mulalo, is that correct in terms of you need to look at the wants is a great place to actually start cutting down very quickly?
Yes, most definitely. Wants, luxuries, those are things that we can do without. So it's important that we apply and live the realities of needs and wants and what is important to us in terms of our financial goals and objectives.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Tizi, Mulalo, you guys gave us some great insights in terms of budgeting. I'm going to quickly go back to my slides, give you a little bit of some information as we wrap things up in terms of that. But great comments, and thank you so much to the ladies for sharing. In terms of week 1 activities and reflection, we had a fantastic session. So we'd love for you guys to complete your monthly budget using the L+EARN budget template, which you can find on the website www.l+earn.org.za. And of course, we would like for you guys to register on the Zalto platform, right? So any prizes you win for participating on the L+EARN program can be redeemed on Zalto. So what we'd like for you guys to do is we've got a little bit of a challenge, right? So put together a short creative video about what you've learned around this topic of budgeting and share it with us, and you could win. Right, so this creative video, it could be a song, a poem, a rap, a dialogue. Keep it at a maximum of 3 minutes, and you could stand a chance to win 280 Zalto, right? In terms of that platform, you need to go and register. We will share these links with you guys. We'll actually send you an email with a flyer to the links. But what you need to do is you need to fill in all your personal details, create an account, upload your beautiful profile picture, complete the micro tasks, submit that micro task. It's that 3-minute creative video, and then you could earn some Zalto. You can then choose to use it immediately. You can save it. And in terms of where you can spend it, if you do win it, you can buy some airtime and electricity. You can take me out for a date at KFC, 60 Streetwise 2. You could use it at Pep, at Clicks. So you definitely need to register and then participate in terms of sending us that video. So register on the Zalto platform. Each week, prizes will be awarded to 9 students who actively participate in the webinars, in the polls, and of course, in that activity and challenge that we have given you. And of course, for resources and the webinar recording, which will be available next week, Wednesday, visit the L+EARN website, which is www.l+earn.org.za. Thank you guys so much for joining us for the L+EARN Consumer Financial Education program brought to you by the Asisa Foundation. Thank you so much to Mulalo. Thank you so much for Z for sharing all of their insights. Next week, I am back, and it's all about saving and investing. Happy Friday, and remember, hashtag secure Esquama, secure the bank. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.